what's up? Twitter reading. Just going through my feed, commenting on a couple of things. Mike Lee, Senator of Utah. The UN uses U.S. taxpayer dollars to undermine America. It's time to bring that to an end. Tell Congress to pass the Defund Act. I highly agree. Look. I get the world wants unity and everything, but diversity, the same people who want unity in the UN also understand, they also advocate for diversity. Diversity doesn't just apply culturally to like people, like different races. It applies to governments as well. Any sort of ecosystem, evolution, right? Benefits from diversity. Creativity benefits from diversity. Governance diversity is social agility, okay? If you have different governments and we have to react to different phenomenon as a world, it's possible that one government is going to react better than another, and that makes us stronger as a planet, which is important because aliens are here, okay? It's legit. You got to deal with it. They're here. Wake up. Everybody look around. So the point is that people are like, well, we need a unified front to engage the aliens. No, they're not unified. Why the fuck should we be unified? Right? So when we look at Africa, the continent of Africa, we don't say, well, that's one continent, so it should have one government. No. You know what I mean? Like, every different little cultural subgroup can have its own form of government. That's fine. That's free. That's what freedom is. Okay? The UN is retarded. All right? Just straight up. If you support the UN, it's a problem. Here's the thing, too. There's two things that need to be done. We need to get the UN... Not only do we need to get the U.S. out of the UN, but we need to get the UN out of the U.S. So defunding the UN is just step one. Step two is they need to not have agents planted in our government, which they admit to doing. Like, it's part of their fucking, like, main plan of attack, right? Is we're going to put agents inside of these different countries to get our agendas passed. Really? That way, for any other country, for any other foreign sovereign nation, that would be called spying. That would be called information ops, and you would be like thrown in prison as a spy. But if it's a globalist organization, then it's allowed. They're still a foreign entity. They are not part of the U.S., and their ideals do not align to the U.S., and they do not answer to the U.S., and yet they are trying to mandate U.S. policy from within, okay, by planting agents. That's illegal. You can define that as treason, especially when they're undermining the Constitution, like free speech, okay? And rights to privacy. So digital ID, their fucking bullshit digital ID that they're trying to pass, centralized CDBC, centralized digital currency, right? That is all usable in the same way that a social reputation system is usable. And the problem, if you think social reputation is a good thing, here's the problem with social reputation, okay? Is that sometimes you and the government might disagree, okay, on what's actually socially reputable. And when that happens, you don't want to lose your job because you're politically disagreeing with the government. I'm not talking about hate speech. I'm not talking about being violent or inciting violence. But you might state something that the government doesn't want you to talk about, okay? That high-funded corporate lobbyists funding the government may not want you to talk about, or private billionaires may not want you to talk about that are funding the government. All they have to do is make whatever they don't want to hear disreputable, and suddenly talking about it gets you fired. You get fired, you lose your food. You lose your food, you die. They can literally kill you just by clicking that little off button on your digital wallet. Okay? Making sure that you can't go across state lines. You can't get on public transport. You can't, they could probably put digital ID in front of everything eventually if it's allowed to set in. You know, you can't go to a movie theater. You can't do any, like they'll limit your entertainment. Like you only get X amount of entertainment bucks per month, right? How fucking dystopian is that? And people don't realize all of that, the seed for all of that is enabled by digital ID and digital centralized currencies. Not decentralized currencies. There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin, but when you bind it to a bank account or you bind it to centralized authorities, then it's an issue, okay? Now, that doesn't mean you can't hold some Bitcoin in your bank account, but don't hold all of your Bitcoin in your bank account, okay? Like, understand that that money is at risk, okay? And so something to understand. But also, we need to ban these agendas that the UN is pushing that are undermining our First Amendment, okay? Privacy and free speech, okay? So people understand something about the Second Amendment that's very, very, very fucking important, okay? And that is that the Second Amendment has an implicit friction against attacks on the First Amendment. So I'm not going to go and infringe the First Amendment if I know that doing so means I have to knock on the door of someone who's armed. Because I'm not going to, that means I have to like staff up against an armed threat just for speech. And I'm not going to do that. So people don't understand. It's like, you don't have the Second Amendment so that you can shoot people or start like a war. I mean, that's a worst case scenario, right? Like a civil war or uprising. But that's not really the underlying theme of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the implicit threat, the implicit friction that comes with passing laws that are unconstitutional. If you pass a law that threatens free speech, then you've got to enforce it. And how are you going to enforce that when every fucking home where you're going to go and arrest people, take their phones, take their kids' cell phones, arrest people's children for talking with the shit that's going on in the UK right now, you go try to do that to an American. Good fucking luck. You know what I mean? And so that's the whole point of having this implicit threat, right? Is it makes it extremely expensive and risky to enforce laws. And the reason why that's good is because you only want laws that are worth that risk on the book. Otherwise, you very quickly get to a totalitarian, authoritarian government, all right? So that's why those two things go hand in hand, okay? Especially when you talk about aliens. Like, there's shit going on in the upper space, right? That we didn't fucking even, they didn't even tell us. The government's lying to us for 80 fucking years, okay, about the shit that's been going on. Like, there's already threats way above and beyond anything that you can get the NFA is fucking regulating. The threats that we're facing are beyond what the government has allowed us to even be aware of, right? We're facing threats that we're not even allowed to be aware of, okay? That are way more fucking powerful than anything that we could face here on this earth, right? And so for them to like regulate like how many fucking rounds go in a magazine or like whether or not you can use your weapon without blowing your ears out, you know, bullshit like that. Like you can't fucking defend your family without, you know, having to make the trade-off of blowing the ears out of everyone in the home. Really? Really? Are you fucking serious? You know what I mean? Like fucking retarded shit. So anyway, yeah, this is a great tweet to start on. We need to get out of the UN. Man, sorry, don't worry about it. And we need to get the UN out of the US. Both those things need to happen. So all those things need to happen. They need to happen soon. That's it. Peace out.